Hey, the anointed ones. Jealousy is just love and hate mixed together. Let's be real here. When someone tries to make you jealous, it's not love or hate. It's desperation wrapped up in a pathetic little bow. And here's the kicker, the harder they try, the more they expose themselves. Did you know that studies show people who intentionally provoke jealousy are more likely to feel? Hey, welcome to the club. Jealousy is a mix of love and hate, right? But here's the deal, when someone tries to make you jealous, it's not love, and it's not hate. It's desperation, plain and simple. And here's the kicker, the harder they try, the more they expose themselves. Did you know that studies show people who intentionally provoke jealousy are more likely to feel insecure about their own worth? That's right. What looks like confidence is usually a cover for fear. So, while they thought they were trapping you in a web of envy, they were actually wrapping themselves in their own insecurities. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Chosen ones, you don't operate on their level. While they're busy playing games, you're out here playing chess. So, grab your popcorn because you know how it is when people try to make others jealous? Well, they're actually afraid of something. Deep down, they don't feel worthy. They think they need to create drama to feel powerful, but they're just pissing you off. You're not someone who's affected by that. You're not into cheap emotional games. You've got bigger fish to fry. You've always had self-confidence. Confidence can look like fear. They thought they were making you jealous, but they were just showing their own insecurities. Now, here's where it gets interesting. They're not on your level. While they're playing games, you're out here playing chess. So, get your popcorn because we're about to break down how their little stunt not only failed, but backfired and left them in a mess they made. Spoiler alert, you walked away untouched, unbothered, and utterly victorious. Let's dive in. At number 1, jealousy was never your weakness. It was their projection. They assumed you'd crumble because of jealousy. But here's the truth, they were projecting their insecurities. We're about to break down how their little stunt not only failed but backfired and left them trapped in a mess they made. Spoiler alert, you walked away untouched, unbothered, and utterly victorious. Let's dive in. At number 1, jealousy was never your weakness. It was their projection. They assumed you'd crumble because of jealousy. But here's the truth, they were projecting their insecurities onto you. People who try to make others jealous aren't confident. They're terrified deep down. They believe they aren't good enough, so they create petty dramas to feel powerful. But they didn't realize they picked the wrong target. You're not someone who gets fazed by crumbs of attention or cheap emotional games. You've outgrown that. Jealousy has never been your weakness because you're self to you, people who try to make others jealous aren't confident. They're terrified. Deep down, they believe they aren't good enough, so they create petty dramas to feel powerful. But they didn't realize they picked the wrong target. You're not someone who gets fazed by crumbs of attention or cheap emotional games. You've outgrown that. Jealousy has never been your weakness because yourself it backfired because it said a lot more about them than it ever could about you. They exposed how needy they are, how obsessed with being desired they are, and how they can't handle someone who isn't desperate for their approval. While they were busy playing games, you stayed in your lane, focused, and unshaken. They thought they were controlling the narrative, but instead, they showed everyone just how much they need to feel chosen. The irony in trying to make you feel excluded was revealed. They were desperate for your attention, and their actions revealed their insecurities. Jealousy wasn't the problem, it was their own self-doubt. They thought they were in control, but they were actually showing their own weaknesses. They thought they had you wrapped around their fingers, but you were the one with the power here. They were so consumed with wanting you to notice them that they didn't realize how much they were actually hurting you. It wasn't you they were jealous of, it was your indifference. They thought they had you wrapped around their fingers, that you were desperate for their attention. But they really underestimated your strength. They thought they were the prize, and that they had the power to make you crazy with jealousy. But they didn't realize that you don't live for their validation. You don't need it. Their attempts to play with your emotions only showed how little they know about you. When they tried to get someone else's attention, thinking it would shake you up, they exposed their hand. They weren't as confident or in control as they wanted everyone to believe. They thought they were in control, but they were wrong. You're strong and you don't need them to validate you. They tried to mess with your head, but you didn't fall for it. You're in control of your own life. They wanted you to be insecure, but you're not. You're the one who's worth keeping. They thought they were playing a game, but they were wrong. They thought they could push you, but you didn't fall for it. You're not in their game. They didn't expect you to walk away. They didn't expect you to see through their manipulative tactics and not let them define your worth. While they were busy trying to make you feel like you lost something, the truth became painfully obvious. You were the one worth keeping. Their move wasn't about love or connection. It was a test, a game to see how far they could push you. And when you didn't react the way they expected, they trapped themselves. Now they're stuck pretending their new choice was a step up, all while secretly realizing they downgraded. Their desperation to seem in control has left them spiraling, questioning why their actions didn't faze you. In the end, they exposed their weakness. They needed you to validate their choices. And when you didn't play along, their illusion of power shattered. You didn't lose anything. They, however, lost the one person who didn't need them but chose them anyway. You're not the type to look at what someone else is doing and feel like you're in competition. In fact, competition doesn't even exist in your world because you're in your own lane, unbothered by the noise. You thought you could bait you, but instead, you just revealed how small you are. You're a manifester, not a chaser. You didn't lose anything. They lost the one person who didn't need them but chose them anyway. And that realization will haunt them far more than they'd ever admit. Third, you don't covet, you manifest. They thought they could make you jealous by flaunting someone else, but what they didn't realize is that you don't operate from a place of lack. Jealousy only works on people who feel they're missing something, and that's not you. You don't covet what others have because you know that what's meant for you will come to you. You're a manifester, not a chaser. While they were busy, they tried to get your attention by playing games, but you were busy building your own reality and creating the life you actually want. What they don't get is that your energy doesn't go toward distractions. You're not the type to look at what someone else is doing and feel like you're in competition. In fact, competition doesn't even exist in your world because you're in your own lane, unbothered by the noise. They thought they could bait you, but instead, they just revealed how small they were trying to get a reaction out of you, but when you didn't fall for it, they were left with their own insecurities. The harder they tried to flaunt, the more obvious it was that they were trying to convince themselves of their choices, not you. It's ironic that while they were trying to make you jealous, they became obsessed with watching your moves. They wanted to see if you cared, if you'd react, if they still had power. You gave them nothing, no energy, no attention, nothing. By doing so, you showed them that you don't chase what isn't aligned with your purpose. You manifest, and they'll never understand. Fourth, they thought they were punishing you, but they exposed their intentions. They thought they were punishing you and teaching you a lesson by flaunting their attention elsewhere, but all they really did was expose their true intentions. Their actions weren't driven by love, care, or even genuine interest. It was all about control. They wanted to see. You're all worked up, wondering if you're worth something, but they just exposed themselves as manipulators. It's not about the new person they showed you or the attention they suddenly stopped giving you. Those were just tools in their toolbox, weapons they thought would keep you hooked on their game. They weren't building a connection, they were just trying to feed their own ego. They wanted to see if they still had power over you. But they didn't realize that you don't play power games. You walk away from them. They tried to punish you, but they messed up. They thought they'd make you cry or get mad, but it backfired. Now, everyone sees what they're really like. They're not as strong or confident as they pretend to be. They need to play mind games to feel in control. But you walked away. You stayed true to your values, and you showed that your worth isn't based on their attention. In the end, they didn't hurt you. They exposed themselves. They're left dealing with the fallout of their own actions, while you continue to thrive, unbothered and unmoved. The punishment they intended for you became their own undoing. Number 5, your detachment is their punishment. They expected tears, anger, or at least some desperate attempt to win their attention back. They wanted to feel powerful, to see you crumble under the weight of their games. But instead, you gave them something they couldn't handle: silence. Your detachment wasn't just a lack of reaction. There was a statement louder than any words you could have spoken. It told them you weren't invested in their games, and that truth cut deeper than any outburst ever could. When someone thrives on drama and manipulation, your indifference becomes their worst nightmare. They feed off attention, whether it's positive or negative. So when you refuse to give them anything, you starve them of the validation they desperately sought. Your silence became a mirror, forcing them to confront the emptiness they were trying so hard to cover up. They weren't punishing you, they were exposing their own insecurities, their desperate need to be wanted, and their inability to control someone who doesn't depend on their approval. Your detachment wasn't just a reaction, it was your power in action. By walking away and refusing to engage, you flipped the script. Suddenly, they were the ones questioning their worth, their choices, and why they couldn't get under your skin. They wanted you to feel small, but your refusal to play along left them feeling insignificant instead. Now, they're stuck replaying their own moves, wondering where they went wrong. The truth is, they didn't take you seriously. Your distance wasn't a sign of weakness, it was the best way to get your own back. It was a reminder that you don't need them to be successful. While they're stuck in their own world, you've moved on. You're freer and stronger than ever. Number 6, they tried to make you feel less than them. They put themselves in a cage of comparison. They thought that by showing everyone else, they could make you feel less valuable. They wanted you to question yourself or even regret leaving. But they didn't realize that comparison is a double-edged sword. They put you on a pedestal, and it backfired on them. They tried to replace you with their prize, but it was clear they couldn't. Now they're stuck in a never-ending cycle. They put you on a pedestal, only to knock you down. They set a standard for themselves, but it was an unconscious one. You can't be replaced. Now they're stuck in a never-ending cycle of comparison, holding their new choice up against you. And let's be honest, the comparison isn't going in their favor. Every little thing about their new situation reminds them of you. The way you carried yourself, the energy you brought to the room, the confidence that couldn't be faked. It's all missing now. They wanted to believe they could upgrade, but deep down, they know they settled. Instead of moving forward, they're living in the shadow of what they lost. Their prize can't live up to you because this isn't about the other person at all. It's about their own emptiness. They thought you were just another player in their game, but you were the entire table. Now, they're left trying to convince themselves they're happy while quietly measuring every move against the standard you set. And here's the kicker, while they're trapped in their cage of comparison, you're free. Free from their games, their insecurities, and their shallow need for validation. You've moved on to bigger, better, and brighter things, while they're stuck chasing shadows of what they had and lost. In the end, they didn't play you. They played themselves. Number 7, attention-seeking is a low-frequency game you refuse to play. They thought attention was the currency that would control you, that by playing petty games of competition, they could pull you down to their level. But what they failed to understand is that attention-seeking is a low-frequency game. Frequency game, and you've outgrown that. You're not interested in validation born out of manipulation or shallow theatrics. While they were busy trying to prove their worth by seeking the spotlight, you quietly remained in your own power. Your refusal to engage wasn't indifference, it was clarity. You saw the game for what it was, a desperate attempt to mask insecurity. Attention. You weren't into the whole frequency game, and you weren't interested in validation that came from manipulation or shallow theatrics. While they were busy trying to prove their worth by seeking the spotlight, you remained in your own power. You weren't trying to engage with them, you were just being yourself. You saw the game for what it was, a desperate attempt to mask insecurity. Attention seekers thrive on reaction, on being noticed, on pulling others into their orbit of chaos. But when you chose not to respond, you left them stranded, spinning in their own web, with no one to perform for. Your silence was a reflection of your wisdom, a refusal to give energy to something that doesn't serve your growth. And in their quest to outshine you, they only embarrassed themselves. Their antics became louder, more obvious, and more desperate, while you stayed composed and unbothered. The contrast was glaring. You weren't competing because there was no competition. You were already on your own path, and by stepping back, you made it clear that your value isn't based on who notices you or how much noise you make. You're grounded in something deeper, something they can't touch. While they were trying to win, you weren't even playing. They exposed themselves for what they really are, lost, insecure, and out of alignment with the higher frequency you operate on. In the end, they didn't diminish you. They highlighted just how small their world really is. Number 8, their better choice is just their band. They bragged about their so-called better choice like it was a trophy, acting like it would wow you or prove a point. But really, their new prize wasn't about love, happiness, or even an upgrade. It was a band-aid. It was a quick fix to cover their insecurities, a distraction to mask the fact that they were never as confident as they pretended to be. Choosing someone else wasn't about finding better, it was about trying to make themselves feel better. They thought flaunting this new person would validate their decisions, make you question your worth, and inflate their ego. But deep down, they know they didn't move up, they settled. And now they're stuck in a situation that looks good on the outside, but feels hollow within. It's time for them to see what they're missing. They can't deny the difference you made. No matter how hard they try, they can't ignore the authenticity, strength, and energy you brought to the table. The cracks are showing. What they used to brag about as proof of their superiority is starting to look more like a burden to maintain. While they're busy acting happy, their eyes keep wandering back to you. They're watching you rise, grow, and glow in ways they never anticipated. Each of your accomplishments is a reminder. When they compare their choice to you, they see the difference. You brought something special to the table, and it's hard to replace. They're starting to crack. What they used to brag about now feels like a burden to them. They're busy acting happy, but their eyes keep wandering back to you. They see you rise, grow, and glow, and they're jealous. They thought they were moving forward, but now they're stuck. They're trying to hold up a facade, but they're falling apart. Their band-aid can only hold for so long. Sooner or later, they'll have to face the truth. They didn't break you, they betrayed themselves. The more they watch you thrive, the harder that truth will hit. Number 9, your absence is the ultimate spotlight. When they tried to make you jealous by showing someone else, they thought they were stealing your spotlight. Spotlight, what they didn't realize is that your absence became the spotlight. The more they tried to flaunt their new person, the more they highlighted just how irreplaceable you truly are. In their efforts to move on and make you feel irrelevant, they only underscored the glaring void they left behind when you walked away. People started noticing the difference. They saw the emptiness that their new partner couldn't fill. The attention they craved backfired because every comparison they made just reminded everyone of the "you've got a unique energy about you." It was clear to everyone that you weren't just another person they could replace. You're the one who makes everything better, the one who sets the bar. Their attempt to play you, to make you feel like you were easily forgotten, only highlighted the truth: they'd lost something irreplaceable. And here's the kicker: while they were busy trying to show off their new prize, they were the ones left looking desperate for validation. They had to keep pushing this narrative: but each time they did, it made they seem smaller and more insecure. Meanwhile, you were out there doing your thing and thriving without them. Your absence wasn't a void, it was a statement. It was a reminder to everyone of the power you held and how you didn't need anyone else's attention to shine. Now, they're left trying to convince themselves they made the right choice. While the truth keeps surfacing, their efforts only made it painfully clear that you were the real prize. Number 10, their plan backfired because you don't play petty games. They thought they had it all figured out. They thought you'd fall for their petty games and try to compete for their attention. They tried to trigger jealousy, to make you scramble for validation, but what they didn't expect was for you to rise above it all. Their plan backfired spectacularly because you don't play petty games. You're not interested in drama, childish competition, or anything that diminishes your worth. While they tried to drag you into their mess, you stayed rooted in your own strength and maturity. They were trying to create chaos, but you weren't having it. They thought they'd win by making you feel small or irrelevant, but they just exposed their immaturity. They were hoping for a reaction, but you gave them none. Your silence, your unshakable confidence, and your refusal to stoop to their level. That was their punishment. They couldn't comprehend how you remained so composed while they scrambled to maintain the illusion that they had control. They underestimated your sense of self, your worth more than them, and now they're stuck looking foolish. You didn't need to prove anything to them, and that made them feel even more insignificant. Your dignity and emotional strength were the very things they didn't expect, and those are the very things that shattered their plan. You didn't need to play their game. You won by staying true to yourself. In the end, they were left embarrassed, fumbling for attention, while you just kept thriving, unbothered and untouchable. Number 11, the person they chose over you sees right through them. In their attempt to use someone else as a tool to make you, they're just showing their own insecurities. Jealous. They put themselves in a vulnerable position without even realizing it, the person they chose over you. Thinking they were some kind of upgrade. But they quickly started to see through the act. They thought they were stepping into a situation of value. But instead they became the pawn. In a game they didn't sign up for. What they didn't realize is that their new partner could feel the manipulation. The hidden agenda. The truth is, when someone is being used to make someone else jealous, the underlying insecurity and deceit become palpable. The new person can sense that something isn't right. They start to notice the signs. All the emotional manipulation, unnecessary comparisons, and using your absence as leverage to create drama. It doesn't take long for them to realize they're not the prize. They're just part of an ego. Your ex's new relationship is probably not going to go the way they planned. They're going to start to realize that they're not the prize, but part of a scheme. And now, this new dynamic is starting to backfire. What was supposed to be a way to hurt you is now creating tension and distrust in the relationship. The new person isn't as oblivious as your ex thought. They see the manipulation and emotional games, and they're not as willing to play along. What was meant to make you feel replaceable has instead made them feel used and disrespected. And when this whole thing was supposed to make you feel replaceable, but it's backfiring. They're realizing now that they're just manipulating you and playing games. They're not as into the emotional games as they thought. They're starting to question why you're doing this. And when they start to realize that you're not being genuine, things start to fall apart. What your ex didn't expect is that by bringing someone else into the mix to make you jealous, they're actually exposing their own shady behavior. They're not just losing you, they're risking losing the person they turned to in desperation because they couldn't resist playing games that were doomed to fail. They became prisoners of their own insecurity. In their relentless effort to make you jealous, they unwittingly revealed their deepest flaw, their obsession with you. What they thought would be a power move to show their control or superiority turned into a glaring display of their own insecurity. The more they tried to provoke a reaction from you, the more they shackled themselves to a cycle of self-doubt and need for validation. Instead of moving on, they became prisoners of their own mind, always focused on you and how you were responding to their childish games. They thought they could manipulate you into feeling inadequate, but the truth is, their obsession was what exposed their weakness. They were so caught up in trying to make you feel left behind that they ended up becoming slaves to their own insecurity. They were so insecure. Every time they checked to see if you were reacting, every time they made a move to flaunt their new life, they only reinforced how little control they actually had. They were still emotionally tied to you, unable to let go of the power they mistakenly thought they had over you. Meanwhile, you kept thriving. Your energy remained undistracted by their petty attempts and focused on your own growth. They thought they could make you feel small, but all they did was waste precious time and energy on a battle that never really existed. You didn't need to engage because their obsession with you only made them more transparent. In the end, they were the ones stuck in a prison of their own making while you flourished freely, proving that their energy was wasted all along. Their need for validation, their inability to move on, was just their own problem. All that stuff they did to try and bring you down only made them look bad. You didn't need to feed into it. You just kept going and it showed how strong you were. They were the ones stuck in their own mess. Their need for validation, their inability to move on, all that stuff was holding them back. You, however, were always going to rise above it. In the end, it's clear. Every time they tried to stir up trouble between you, it only showed their own weaknesses and insecurities. They thought they were playing a game, trying to mess with your emotions, but what they didn't realize was that they were only hurting themselves. The more they tried to flaunt the more they flaunted their so-called better choices, the more they exposed how little they had truly grown. Their energy, their time, their focus, they wasted it all. They thought they could make you feel small, but instead, they highlighted just how irreplaceable you are. While they were busy trying to tear you down, you quietly built yourself up stronger, wiser, and more powerful than ever before. You didn't need to stoop to their level, and that's why you won. You were never into the drama or games. You've always been about growth, peace, and staying true to yourself. And that's what sets you apart. So let them stew in their own mess. Let them try to convince themselves that their choices were right while you keep thriving, unbothered, and unstoppable. They thought they were punishing you, but in reality, they were only punishing themselves. They can never take you down. You've always been about growth, peace, and staying true to yourself. That's what makes you stand out. Let them stay in their own mess. Let them convince themselves that their choices were right. While you keep thriving, unbothered, and unstoppable, they thought they were punishing you. But in reality, they were only punishing themselves. They can never take away what you've built, the strength you've cultivated, or the value you bring to the world. You're irreplaceable, and no amount of jealousy or manipulation can ever change that. Keep rising, keep shining, because your absence, your confidence, and your strength will always be the loudest message they'll ever hear. If you found value in this, if you resonated with the truth, then it's time to take the next step. Hit that subscribe button. If you're into this, hit that subscribe button and join this awesome community. It's not just about watching videos. It's about getting yourself to the next level, opening your mind, and embracing the confidence you were born with. So don't wait. Subscribe now and let's keep growing together. You were always meant to rise, and now is the time to show the world what you're made of. Let's keep pushing forward. Stay blessed.